Hi, this is Nicholas Eidolon, back again to welcome you to the dungeon. This is Analog Dungeon episode 3, and in this episode we are going to look at this box. In episode 1 and 2 I talked about how the catalyst for beginning this video series was Davy of Aerithrite Throne and Serpent's Sword sending this box all the way to the American Southeast from the desolate snowy wastes of his home in Canada. This is a collection of releases from Serpent Sword Records. It represents a huge amount of work on Davy's part. I think he started putting this together for me probably toward the end of last year, maybe somewhere in the middle, but definitely toward the end of last year. He's been putting tapes back for me from his various tape drops until finally he has assembled this huge box, and it's got some stuff that I think was meant for Siege that ended up, of course, not happening in person, so those items didn't get to go to Siege. This box has been sitting next to my desk for about a week and a half, and it's driving me fucking crazy because I want to open it so bad. So finally everything is in place that I feel like we can open it. So before we get to that, in the background you can hear Thangorodrum. This is cassette 1 of the prologue double cassette box that Out of Season just put out. So this collects I want to say 4 or 5 of the early EPs and demos from Thangorodrum. We'll look at this more in depth in a later episode, I'm sure. I believe this is the only Thangorodrum release I was missing in terms of having all of the music, not necessarily each individual release, but you know, this makes up for all of the early stuff that I didn't have. I have it on some form of tape, so this is great stuff. Definitely check this out. All right, have a cutting implement in hand, and we are going to break the seal. The address information has already been removed, so no one tries to steal anyone's identity. And I'm going to do this as carefully as I can so as not to damage the precious cargo inside. Safety first, everybody. Safety first. Oh, look at that. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Got some packing material here. This will be in Canadian. If anybody is unfamiliar with what Canadian looks like, that's what Canadian looks like. So very few people will be able to read any of this. Commercial. See, I don't know what any of this says, so we'll just get rid of that. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, I don't think you can see this on the camera. There's a hair in this box. That could be... Oh, I think we're getting it a little bit on the camera there. That could be authentic Aerithrite Throne hair. We're going to put that aside. We'll come back to that later. Let's see. I've got some large cassette boxes here. Let's skip those for the moment. I'm going to move the box out of the way and bring stuff in to look at. And in no particular order, we'll just start at the top. We've got Aerithrite Throne with Tongues of Plague and Eyes of Decay. So this is a fairly recent release. We're not going to look at any Aerithrite Throne in this video. I'm going to save those for a separate video. But this is an excellent release. Of course, everything Aerithright Throne puts out is fantastic. All right, here we've got Cefaris. Davey just explained to me how to pronounce that. Cefaris, demo 1 and 2 on cassette. So that's Ritual of Vampyric Blood and Incantations from the Shadowland. Excellent atmospheric dungeon synth, black ambient, black metal. Good stuff. Abholos, Whispers from the Dark Sea. This is the third Abholos EP. It's on a purple cassette. Let's put that aside for the moment. Here's a really great one. Voslaram, Immortal Blood. I want to say this is the third or fourth Voslaram tape. Again, we'll look at these in a different episode. Fog Kingdom Promo 2019. So this is a short EP from a collaborative project that Davey worked on. Alright, here we've got... Alright, that's Adrastia and Aerithright Throne. This is a split that Davey did with an artist that I'm actually not that familiar with. So I'll do a little more research on that artist, and we will definitely cover this soon, because Davey's been working on some fantastic splits lately. This is one of them. Alright, here we go with Targaron. This is Perpetual Cruelty. Yeah, Targaron's Perpetual Cruelty. I think this is the second Targaron release. So we'll cover this little side project later as well. Elder Goblin, For the Glory of Blackholm. Elder Goblin. I think this is the only Elder Goblin tape. And this one, I think I'm going to have to look into a little more, because it's not ringing a bell as to exactly what this is. I might have to talk to Davey about this one, but that's Elder Goblins, For the Glory of Blackholm. Alright, next up, Aerithright Throne, The Glacial Tomb. I really love this cover. This is one of the one of the unique covers, in my opinion, in the Aerithright Throne catalog. I almost want to say that's a photo. I think that might be a photo. So that's really cool. See, that's on a purple tape as well. And again, all these Aerithright Throne tapes we'll talk about in a more Aerithright Throne centric episode at a later date. Here we go. This is the good stuff. Moss Golem. This is the first Moss Golem release. There's no title listed here, but this is called The House That Grandma Built. So when Davey launched this, he referred to it as Comfy Synth, which I'll leave that where it is, and we'll talk about Davey's attempt at Comfy Synth at a later time. Alright, next up, Tales from the Dungeon Troll, Ubin's Quest. Dungeon Troll is a conceptual fantasy project of Davey's. All of these tapes take place in the mythical land of Uzor. I think we've got another Dungeon Troll release in here as well. So I'm really excited to do a video where we look into that a little bit more, maybe talk to Davey a little bit beforehand and get some more info on Uzor and exactly what all that's about. I also need to look up who did the cover for this. This is obviously an older piece of art, but that's pretty interesting. It's kind of bringing to mind Lord Dunsany's work. I almost wonder if that is a Dunsany illustration. We'll talk about this in a later video. Alright, next up we've got, here we go, Block Wizard, Requiem for the Block Kingdom. So this is one of 2 Block Synth projects that I'm aware of, the other one being Block Goblin. We all know who's behind Block Goblin, don't make me say it. But Davey is behind Block Wizard, and he'll actually admit it, unlike the party who will not be named. But this is, you know, a divisive work, to say the least. I like that red cassette. It's almost the color of a Lego, maybe. I think Davey was originally planning to do this on a micro cassette, but that didn't work out. Maybe down the road we'll see some micro cassette releases. That would be pretty excellent. Alright, here's another Aerithrite Throne release. This is In the Light of the Pale Moon. In the Light of the Pale Moon from Aerithrite Throne on a white tape. I promise, guys, the new camera is coming and we won't have to deal with this focusing issue anymore, I hope. Alright, next up we've got I think this is Ugorum. This is another one, sort of like Elder Goblin, where I'm going to have to look into it a little bit more because I'm just not remembering exactly what this album pertains to. This is Into the Morning Fog by Ugorum. Alright, now we have on a lovely pink tape the, I think this is the first Block Wizard tape. That's gonna be Legend of the Block Wizard. Focus, god damn it. Legend of the Block Wizard, first Block Wizard tape, featuring the fantastic Lego wizard on the cover. Excellent stuff. Alright, Aerithrite Throne, again. Coven of the Crystal Garden by Aerithrite Throne. I believe this is the 3rd of a trilogy, so I'll probably do an episode that's just mainly focusing on the 3 tapes in this trilogy, because it's sort of a long conceptual piece. Excellent. Alright, here we go. Ophelia, As We Weep at the Altar of Mourning. The Altar of Mourning. That's an interesting phrase that you actually see in a couple of Davies projects. But this is... I'm sorry, I said Ophelia because I'm thinking of Ophelia drowning. This is Sophia, not Ophelia. Sophia, As We Weep at the Altar of Mourning. My apologies to both artists. This is the only Sophia tape. I think it's definitely more pertaining to grief. It's sort of set in a different time period tone than a lot of his other work. So that'll be a cool one to cover. Alright, Witch Kingdom, Where the Light Perishes and Darkness Thrives. This is one of 2 Witch Kingdom releases. So this is some very dark dungeon synth, dark ambient work on a black tape. Really cool cover illustration there. Witch Kingdom, Where the Light Perishes and Darkness Thrives. Alright, this is the last of the single cassettes, or the normal boxed cassettes. This is Moss Golem, The Woods of Galdura. Moss Golem, The Woods of Galdura. This is the second Moss Golem release, and this has excellent commissioned artwork on it. This has some of the best artwork of any of Davies' albums, in my opinion. It's just utterly fantastic. So Galdura, I believe, is I'm not sure if that relates to the Land of Uzor. that is present in the dungeon troll work. So that'll be something to explore when we get to this tape. But obviously there's some world building going on here as well. I'm a sucker for conceptual stuff, so if we run into that with any tapes that we talk about, I'm definitely going to dig into it a little bit, or as much as the artist will allow me. Alright, moving on to, let's see, some of these box tapes. So the first one here is Tales from the Dungeon Troll, Fairy Tales from the Land of Uzor. Oops, sorry about that. A compendium of tales from the Dungeon Troll. This has an incredibly badass illustration on the back. Some great artwork on the front. And inside we've got 2 cassettes worth of Dungeon Troll material. So that covers a few different Dungeon Troll albums. We're not going to go into what all is covered there at the moment. We're going to put that aside for now. Next up, we've got Aerithrite Throne. It's going to be hard to see because it's sort of a black on black cover almost, but this is Vampyric Burial Shroud. So this is a reissue of an earlier Aerithrite Throne album, sort of in a deluxe cassette case. Oh wow, that's really excellent. It's got some interior artwork, a really beautiful clear cassette. This is, I think that's actually a prison cassette, so there's no screws or anything in it, so that's pretty cool. Again, just great work from Aerithrite Throne. That's Vampyric Burial Shroud, and this is a reissue of that album. Alright, this might be my favorite cover. I may have said that once before, but this might actually be my favorite cover. And again, this is one that's kind of hard to see on the camera, unfortunately. But this is Dungeon Troll Into the Castle of Forbidden Twilight. I love the art on the cover of this. I believe this was commissioned. I could be wrong. This could be an older piece, but I'm not sure. I'll find out before we actually cover it. Inside, oh wow, he's loaded this down with pins. This red cassette, he asked me which color I would prefer, and I love it like when a vinyl or something matches the cover a little bit, so I definitely wanted this red cassette. We'll cover that later. And the last cassette here we have is Aerithrite Throne. That is From Lands of Profane Wisdom. Let me wipe this off. There's a little bit of dust on this. Alright, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that's number 1 of 3. And I believe that this is not available online. I've never heard this before. This is 1 of 3 that was distributed from Davey to me, to the purveyor of Ancient Meadow Records, and to the purveyor of Secret Corridor Records. So there's only 3 of these. They were only sent to 3 folks, and they are not available online anywhere. So this is a really special tape. I have not heard this yet. I can't wait to play this later for myself. I haven't decided if I'll cover this on the show or not. I may not. I may end up not talking about this one at all, but that's super cool of Davey to include me on that, so I can't thank him enough. Alright, let me get this box out of the way, and I think I'm actually going to kill the lights behind me because we're getting some glare on the tapes. Give me just a second. Alright, so in this episode, let me move some tapes real quick. Things are piling up on me here. Let's invite our friend from the previous episode back. Get him nice and centered. center our camera just a little bit. Oh, excuse me. All right. So, in this episode, what we are going to cover, first of all, I want to talk about this Fog Kingdom release. So, there's not good light anymore. Excuse me one moment. Alright, that's a little better. So, this Fog Kingdom release is a very short demo. This is a collaboration between Davey and the person behind Secret Corridor Records. On the Bandcamp page, and I'm sure in this as well. Yeah. So in here you'll see that they're credited as Worm on vocals and synths, and S on guitars and synth. So Worm is actually the moniker that Davey uses in Aerithright Throne. S is the person behind Secret Corridor Records. Hopefully we'll have some Secret Corridor Records to cover soon as well. I have a box set coming from Rot Records of the 9th Key, so we'll definitely talk about those. So this is a collaboration between those two artists, and basically this is just a short black metal demo. Let's see. It's got dungeon synth intros and outros. So Davey, S records the intro to this. So it's sort of just a smooth, bittersweet dungeon synth intro, just a few keyboard riffs that sort of fade in and out. And then what follows that is 2 tracks of pretty bare, stripped down black metal. Davey's performing vocals. He's doing the drum programming. S is performing guitars. So it's real guitars. Excellent riffing. So fast, melodic. This isn't too raw or anything. It's as far as some of this stuff goes, it's fairly clean. But it's just this fast, sort of triumphant riffing that you don't really get with a lot of the other work by these guys. So there's sort of an uplifting attitude to it. Lyrically, this is about the fall of kings, the fall of empires. It's just more of a heroic tone than some of the other work we'll see from Davey today, I think. Sort of empowering rather than gloomy. There's a fantastic outro by Davey on the synths that really accompanies the intro that S performs. I really hope they can get back together and record some more Fog Kingdom material, because it has a lot of potential to be really great. It's a really good listen. Go check it out on Bandcamp and message them and tell them that we need more. Let's see. The next tape we want to talk about, I believe, is going to be Abholos. So this is Whispers from the Dark Sea by Abholos. This is sort of Davey's interpretation of sea synth, I think. So Davey, he tackles some of these subgenres. He basically helped create block synth. He's got the comfy synth, quote unquote, project that I mentioned earlier. So this is sort of his interpretation of sea synth, which you can find from guys like Pale or Majesty of Oceans. But in Davey's world, what we get is an explicitly Lovecraftian album. So he's, you know, taking the Lovecraftian themes of this dark, unfathomable sea and sort of bringing that fear into his music. This is actually named after a fairly obscure great old one from the Lovecraft mythos. Not one that Lovecraft himself created. Apparently this comes from a 1976 story by German author, see, I've got it written down here, Eddie C. Burton. So yeah, Abholos is an entity from a later work in the mythos. So you can certainly tell this is Davy's work. It's got the same distorted, haunted veneer that a lot of his projects have. This one has a real vibe of mystery to it. I think that's sort of what sets it apart from some of his other stuff, is the fact that it, instead of just total gloom, you get a little bit of the unknown in the music. That's the kind of flavor that he's going for here. That fear of the unknown is sort of front and center, and that's of course prevalent in Lovecraft's work. There's a constant thunderstorm in the background of this whole album. It just feels like you're staring at an uncalm sea the whole time. It's very uneasy. It kind of feels like something terrible is coming. So it's got a really good sense of anxiety to it. Anxiety and doom. And again, that's incredibly important in Lovecraft's work, this sense of cosmic dread that's always bearing down on you. So where I think a lot of other projects might focus on the weirdness or the creatures themselves, or sort of come at it from that angle of being against humanity, it really feels like this is coming at it from the human perspective. So we're sort of being made to feel that dread rather than feel it from the side of the malevolence itself. We're actually supposed to feel the fear from this album. So it's just masterful stuff in that respect. A great example of the mood of this album is track 3, that's Upon the Onyx Pedestal. It's the shortest track on the album, but it builds such an uneasy atmosphere in that short time. It's really incredible. The album cover, which I don't think you can see very well. Let me see if I can take it out and get a better look. I might have to adjust these lights some more. We're going to get this right eventually, I promise. This is one of Gustave Doré's woodcuts for the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And the Rime of the Ancient Mariner is a very old work. I should have written the name down of the author, but it's escaping me now. But it's one of the pieces of fiction. It's actually an epic poem, but it's one of the pieces of fiction that as a child Lovecraft really latched onto, and it really informed his later works. So there's in the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, there's that sense of sort of inherited guilt and sort of cosmic dread. The sea plays a huge part, obviously. It's also one of my favorite Iron Maiden tracks. So maybe if Lovecraft was alive today, he would be an Iron Maiden fan. Probably not, but you never know. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to flip this tape. And we are back. All right, so the last tapes we're going to talk about are the Cefaris albums. So let's get these out. Alright, Cefaris is a raw black metal dungeon synth hybrid. I think it might be one of Davy's strongest side projects, honestly. It's a conceptual project that's themed around vampirism. Specifically, it's about the vampire Cefaris, who is this ancient being who is worshipped as a god by these sort of bloodthirsty fanatics. The albums are a developing mythology. They're told through the eyes of these fanatics, these followers of Cefaris. It's just fucking rife with sacrifice and bloodshed and all these vampiric tropes. Like it's really an excellent listen in that regard. So there are these are the first two releases, Ritual of Vampiric Blood and Incantations from the Shadowlands. The third album, which I don't have yet, is Under the Serpent Moon. That's going to be released on tape before this episode actually airs. So it's coming out May 1st from Rot Records. You can check out my review of that album on monstersmadnessandmagic.com. That's a blog that I'm doing some writing for. I hope you had a chance to pick up that album because I'm sure it sold out like within the hour. But it's a really fantastic listen. But back to these two. Let's see, the first album, Rituals of Vampiric Blood. So this is on a green tape. Inside it says, "How we long for the eternal slumber, skies of gray, weeping at the altar." See, there's that phrase again, weeping at the altar. So this album is it's 8 tracks. It's sort of slow to mid-tempo. It's got a lot of these warbly keyboards, a lot of distortion, a lot of static. It sort of buries a lot of the instrumentation, and then there's this drum programming that really stands out. Davy's got a lot of skill at making sort of those backing beats to his work. And then the vocals are sort of what sets this apart the most, in my opinion. Like his vocals are really all out on this Cefaris project. He uses vocals in some other projects as well. Some Aerothrite Throne stuff has vocals. And of course we can hear his vocals on Fog Kingdom, and they're always fantastic. But with this one, it's just these distorted wails and tortured growls. The whole project really has the ability to sort of throw the listener off kilter. The production is, and I talked about this when I reviewed the third album as well. The production is such that it always feels a little unstable to your ear. So it's like everything's about to fall apart. The keyboard's distorted and, sort of wobbles in and out, and the reverb on the vocals. And then there's just this utter mournfulness about it. Like there's such a sadness, but it's a malevolent sadness. Like it's really some vile stuff. It's sort of a love letter to classic dungeon synth in a way as well. That sort of black ambient stuff like Funereal Moon, for instance. The final track on this album, Into the Spirit Keeper's Tomb, is what I would recommend if you want to check this out. It's 9 minutes, and it really shows off those vocals, especially at the end. Like he's really giving it his all at the end, which is fantastic to hear. So yeah, if you're gonna check one out, to really get the flavor of this album, that last track is great. Now, I always recommend to listen to an album start to finish. That's the way I like to do it. But if you're somebody who, you know, doesn't want to sit through a whole album to decide if you like it or not, definitely check out that last track, Into the Spirit Keeper's Tomb. All right, the second album is Incantation from the Shadowlands. This one's on a clear tape, and we've got some excellent artwork inside. This is a little bit of a shorter album. The intro to this album is super strong. It's got these sort of monotonous notes, and again, the vocals are just fantastic. This album wastes no time lyrically getting into just really gruesome stuff. So when you can understand the vocals, it's just not nice stuff. Like, there's nothing good happening in the lyrics to these albums. So this is really, in my opinion, some of the darkest modern stuff you can get your hands on. Like, it's, you know, it's not heroic in any way. It's not about wizards and magic or anything like that. It's just about bad doom and vampirism and the fall of man, basically. It's really excellent stuff if you're sort of in that mindset where you just want to listen to something that's completely nihilistic. This album is a little sparser to my ear. It's a little more bare bones than the first one. I think that works well. It adds to the bleakness. The outro really encapsulates that. There's just this haunting, droning wind that drowns out this chanting tone. There's a slow, dragging kind of hopelessness to this music. It's sort of like the inevitability of destruction. I think that's a huge concept of this project. And again, there's a sort of nihilism to it that you get with a lot of death metal or black metal. And it's something that really draws me to some of that music sometimes. The other thing I want to mention about these is the covers. So, you know, we've got some really classic covers, just utter blackness with that stark white photography coming out with corpse paint and the candles. Really an homage to the classics. So Davey did a fantastic job here. His packaging never disappoints, in my opinion. So that's Cefaris, Demo 1 and 2, Abholos, Whispers from the Dark Sea. That's the third Abholos work. And Fog Kingdom Promo 2019. It's a collaboration between Davey and the entity behind Secret Corridor Records. So that's 4 fantastic tapes, and we've got a ton more to go through in some future videos. Again, I can't thank Davey enough for doing this for me, for putting these back and giving them all to me. I just appreciate Davey so much. He is an excellent artist. Definitely one of my favorite artists out there right now. And I mean, he's just doing some fantastic stuff. Like I mentioned before, he's working on some splits. I know right now, as of the recording of this, on Friday of this week, May 1st, when that Cefaris album comes out, the third Cefaris album, he's also releasing through Obsidian Relic Records the split between Aerithrite Throne and Saragost. That is a great album as well. I got a chance to review that, and I was blown away by both artists. What both artists brought to that album. It's some really, really excellent next level stuff for the dungeon synth scene. So definitely go check out Aerithright Thrones page, Serpent Swords Records page, check out Rot Records, check out Obsidian Relic Records. Like last time, I want to give a couple of shout outs before we go to some channels. So this time let's talk about the Dungeon Synth Archives, who I think most of people probably follow. It's probably the biggest Dungeon Synth YouTube channel. So they upload mostly new stuff. I think probably some old stuff too, but mostly new stuff pretty regularly. That's a great channel to follow if you want sort of constant updates to the Dungeon Synth scene, just to see some new stuff that's coming out. But in the same vein, also follow the Sovereign Hammer. That's a fantastic YouTube channel if you want to check out some carefully curated classic Dungeon Synth and some new stuff. So Chad, who runs that, who also runs he ran Grave Rot Records. He runs oh man, the name of his current label is escaping me. Hang on a second. This is not the correct way to make videos. Don't do what I do and forget what you're talking about mid-sentence. The Obsidian Order, I'm so sorry, the Obsidian Order is the current label that Chad's running, and they've put out Belzum's Sorcerer, Morningstar, a compilation of Morningstar's first and second demo. They should have some Phantom Spire demos coming out on tape soon. But anyway, Chad also runs the Sovereign Hammer, where he curates an excellent selection of old and new Dungeon Synth. I know he loves to sort of dig into the history and find these hidden gems that were made in the 90s. So, you know, raw black metal, weird dark ambient, and sort of the proto Dungeon Synth stuff that was coming out around that time. So definitely check out those two channels. Check out the Obsidian Order label on Bandcamp. And I will see you guys next time, where I think we are going to talk about some of the recent Ancient Meadow releases. And, you know, we'll talk about plans to cover some more of these tapes from Davey then as well. So this is Nicholas Eidolon. I'm signing off now. Thanks.